People screamed like the world was ending. Sirens echoed. Neighbors stumbled out of their homes with hands over their mouths, and in the middle of it all, Karen was pointing at me, shrieking, "He's radioactive. He's killing us all." I stood frozen on my porch, gripping the railing so hard my knuckles went white, my heart hammering in disbelief. You ever feel reality split? Like one moment you're watering your lawn, quiet Saturday morning, and the next the whole neighborhood is treating you like a toxic waste barrel on legs. That was me, confused, furious, and staring at this woman who had been itching for war ever since I refused to pay for her latest HOA emergency fund. Karen. Middle-aged. Bleach blonde, bob stiff as straw. Manic eyes darting as if she'd just uncovered a government conspiracy. She had that voice. Piercing. Sharp. Like glass scratching metal. Broadcasting my supposed radioactive threat to everyone within earshot. And people believed her. That's the worst part. Fear spreads like wildfire. I heard one mom scream, dragging her 2 kids away like I was some monster. Another man gagged into his sleeve, stumbling backwards. My stomach twisted. My jaw clenched. How could this be happening? Karen lifted a small black device, waving it dramatically in the air. It beeped. Loud. Shrill. Fake as hell. "See," she shrieked, eyes bulging with victory. "The meter doesn't lie." My voice cracked. "That's a toy Geiger counter off Amazon, Karen." But my words, they vanished in the roar of chaos. God, my chest ached. The humiliation, the disbelief, like the ground had given way beneath me. Was this real life? The police arrived fast. Blue lights bouncing against houses. Radios crackling. Relief washed over me. Finally, someone sane, someone in authority, would shut this down. I exhaled shakily. Thank God. I muttered. But Karen. She doubled down. She ran to the first officer, clutching his sleeve, gasping like she'd escaped a nuclear plant meltdown. "Don't touch him. He's dangerous. He's contaminated our whole community." The officer shot me a wary glance, then at the crowd gagging and scattering. My stomach sank again. No, no, no. "Sir, please stay where you are," the cop ordered. I lifted my hands, pulse thundering. "Officer, this is insane. She bought that toy online. I'm not." My words broke off as Karen pressed the beeping toy against the cruiser door. It squealed louder. The crowd gasped in unison. Karen smirked like she'd just won an Oscar. "See. Contamination. Arrest him before we all die." Heat flooded my face. My fist shook. This woman was ruining me. Neighbors whispered. Cameras came out. Someone even live-streamed. Local man caught with radioactive material. The words sliced like knives. I could almost hear the digital wildfire spreading. Then, twist. Another police SUV screeched in. A tall officer stepped out, face grim but calm. He wore gloves, carrying a case. His badge gleamed under the morning sun. The crowd hushed, tension rippling like static. Karen perked up, thinking this was backup for her delusion. She fluttered to him like a moth to flame. "Detective, thank God you're here. He's been poisoning us with radiation. Look, look." She shoved the device toward him. The detective raised an eyebrow, then plucked the toy from her hands with 2 fingers, holding it away as though it were sticky. He pressed a hidden button. The beeping stopped. Silence. Karen froze. The crowd murmured. "This model," the detective said, voice steady, "is a novelty item. You can program it to beep however you want. It's not detecting radiation." He turned to me, then back to Karen. His jaw tightened. "Where'd you get this?" Her face twitched. I was only trying to warn people." "Answer the question." Karen stammered, her confidence crumbling. The detective opened his case. revealing an actual calibrated radiation scanner. He scanned me first. The device blinked green. Normal background levels. He announced. He scanned my yard, my porch. Even the damn garden gnome Karen always hated. Still green. The relief that surged through me. Could have collapsed. My knees wobbled. Breath ragged. "Thank you," I whispered under my breath. The crowd gasped again. This time at Karen. Because the detective wasn't done. He turned the scanner on her. The device chirped. Numbers spiking. Not radiation, but something else. He leaned down, inspecting the inside of her purse. His eyes narrowed. He reached in and pulled out a tiny device taped to a battery pack. "Lady, you planted an emitter." His tone was sharp. Controlled fury. A fraud device designed to trick that toy counter. Gasps erupted. Someone muttered. "She staged the whole thing." Karen's eyes went wild. No, it's not what it looks like. He bribed you, didn't he? He's dangerous." She clawed toward me, spitting venom, but officers restrained her. My chest heaved. Adrenaline surged like fire in my veins. The tables had turned. Finally, the detective's voice cut through the noise. "Ma'am, you incited mass panic, falsified evidence, and attempted fraud. You're under arrest." He snapped handcuffs around her wrists. The crowd erupted. Not with fear this time, but disbelief. Even laughter. Some neighbors shouted at her. Others shook their heads in disgust. A man in the back yelled, "You scared my kids half to death, Karen." Karen thrashed, her shrieks warbling. Desperate. Pathetic. No, you're all blind. He's the monster, not me." Her voice cracked. Tears streaked mascara down her face. Black rivers cutting across her cheeks. And me, I just stood there, silent, my heart slowing. A strange calm washing over me. Justice had arrived. Sharp and sudden. Like lightning splitting the sky. But the twist wasn't over. Because the detective leaned toward me quietly. Voice low enough only I could hear. "This isn't the first time she's pulled a stunt. We've been tracking her for months." I blinked. "Months?" He nodded, eyes grim. "She's been filing fake hazard reports. Getting reimbursements from homeowners association funds. This time she escalated and you were the target. She picked the wrong guy." The revelation hit me like a second storm. Fraud. Corruption. She wasn't just unhinged. She was calculated. Scheming. Profiting off fear. As the officers hauled her away. Still screaming. Still kicking. Neighbors stared at me differently now. Some apologetic. Some embarrassed. Some ashamed for ever believing her. But the damage. The damage lingered. My name was already out there. Stamped in half a dozen live streams. Hashtags swirling. I looked down at my trembling hands. Then back at the crowd. My throat tightened. Do you see what she did? Do you understand how easy it is to destroy someone's life with a lie? My voice cracked. Today it was me. Tomorrow. Could be any of you. Silence. Heavy. Guilty silence. And that's when it struck. The bitter truth. Karen's downfall was sweet. Yes. But the scars she left. They wouldn't fade overnight. Fear leaves shadows. Still, watching her shoved into the cruiser. Screaming about conspiracies while the detective rolled his eyes. That was the most satisfying sight I'd ever seen. And maybe, just maybe, the neighborhood would finally learn. The loudest voice isn't always the truth. So tell me, if you were standing there, watching Karen get dragged off in cuffs, would you have cheered, or just stared in disbelief? Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. The first time I saw that envelope on my doorstep, my stomach dropped so hard I thought I might be sick. An eviction notice. Me. In my own house. The words were stamped in bold red, "Final Notice," and for a moment, my ears filled with that high-pitched ringing you get when you're seconds away from either fainting or losing your mind. I actually laughed out loud, a bitter, hollow laugh, because the absurdity of it was just too much. Then it hit me. This wasn't just me. Down the street, Mrs. Flores was standing in her driveway, holding the same envelope, her hands trembling. Across the road, the Wilsons were on their porch, reading theirs. One by one, neighbors trickled out, each holding a letter that screamed, "You're being evicted." And that's when I saw her, Karen, standing by her white SUV like she was the queen of the cul-de-sac. Sunglasses perched low on her nose, a smug little smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. She didn't even try to hide it the way she scanned the street, her eyes glittering, watching us unravel. "What the hell is this?" I shouted, waving my letter in the air. She tilted her head like a cat playing with a mouse. "Just doing the HOA's job. Honey, some of us actually enforce the rules around here." Enforce. My blood pressure spiked so fast my hands shook. This isn't even from the Homeowners Association. Where's the official letterhead? The signatures? She gave me that syrupy, fake polite smile. "Oh, maybe it's preliminary. You'll see." Then she slid back into her SUV and drove off like nothing happened. I could feel the whole neighborhood buzzing with panic. People were calling spouses, shuffling papers, digging for mortgage documents. And Karen, she'd planted a bomb and just walked away. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the fake eviction letter spread out in front of me. The more I looked at it, the more the details screamed fraud. Wrong font, the HOA's name slightly misspelled, and the date. It was formatted like a European timestamp. Who in our Homeowners Association would write August 8th, 2025 instead of August 8th, 2025? I took a long breath, steadying myself. "All right, Karen, you want a fight? You've got one." I started making calls. First, to the Homeowners Association president, Mr. Delaney, a decent guy, if a little too soft-spoken. The second I mentioned the letters, his voice cracked. "We never sent anything like that. That's forgery. And if she's impersonating the Homeowners Association, then it's fraud." I finished for him. We set up an emergency meeting for the next morning. But in the meantime, I needed proof. Lucky for me, our street was basically a fortress of ring cameras and motion sensors. Mrs. Flores sent me her footage first. And oh, my God, there she was, clear as day. Karen, wearing oversized sunglasses and a floppy sun hat like she was in some low-budget spy movie, slipping an envelope under Mrs. Flores' door, then speed-walking to the next house. By midnight, I had 5 different angles from 5 different houses. For K. High definition, crystal clear shots of Karen's little fraud parade. You could hear the rustle of paper, the click of her cheap sandals, even her muttering under her breath, "That'll teach them." I barely slept. By the next morning, word had spread, and the Homeowners Association meeting was standing room only. People were fired up, shouting, waving letters, demanding answers. And Karen, she waltzed in late, Starbucks cup in hand, like she was about to host a brunch. Mr. Delaney called the meeting to order, but voices kept rising over each other. I waited until the room hit peak chaos. Then I stood up and held my phone in the air. "Everyone needs to see this." The room went dead quiet when the first video played. The screen lit up with Karen's face, sunglasses slipping down, that little smirk visible as she bent to drop another letter. Then came angle after angle, house after house. The gasp that went through the room was almost cinematic. Someone in the back muttered, "Oh, she's done." Karen's face drained of color, but she still tried. "Those aren't me. That's deepfake technology or something. Cut her off. Deepfake. Karen. You're wearing the same sandals you have on right now. Everyone turned. She glanced down at her feet like they'd just betrayed her. Mr. Delaney leaned forward, his voice suddenly sharp. This is serious. You forged legal notices, impersonated the homeowners association, and intentionally caused distress to multiple residents. This is criminal. Karen sputtered. I was just... No. He snapped, louder than I'd ever heard him. You were just committing fraud. There it was. The word that hung in the air like a hammer about to fall. Fraud. And we all knew what came next: police reports, lawsuits, maybe even jail time. But here's the thing about Karen: she never quits when she's ahead. Instead of shutting up, she doubled down. You people never enforce the rules. I'm the only one who cares about property values. Maybe if you didn't let your lawns go to hell. The room erupted. People were shouting over each other, calling her a liar, a bully, a criminal. Mrs. Flores slammed her hand on the table so hard the coffee cups rattled. And then came the sweetest sound: the click of a police officer's radio. We all turned toward the doorway. 2 uniformed officers stepped in, calm but firm. One of them, Officer Harper, spoke up. Karen Mitchell, we need you to come with us. The look on her face, pure, undiluted shock. She stammered something about a misunderstanding, about homeowners association bylaws, about how she was just trying to help. But the officers weren't having it. They cuffed her right there in front of everyone. And I swear, the collective sigh of relief in that room could have powered the whole block. Still, the story didn't end there, because 2 weeks later, Karen decided to fight back, not with apologies, but with a lawsuit. She actually tried to sue the Homeowners Association for defamation and emotional distress. The audacity. Her attorney sent these glossy, over-the-top court filings, claiming she'd been humiliated without cause and falsely portrayed as a criminal. Never mind that she was being criminally charged. But here's the twist: turns out, by filing that lawsuit, she opened herself up to discovery. And that meant every email, every text, every little homeowners association group chat she'd been in was now fair game. And oh, did the skeletons start falling out of her closet. The emails alone were enough to sink her. Dozens of them sent to other homeowners association members late at night, laying out her plan to drive out problem homeowners by any means necessary. She even wrote one bragging about how people will believe anything if the envelope looks scary enough. Her own words, in writing, with timestamps, the day those got entered into evidence. Her lawsuit went from laughable to tragic. Her lawyer tried to spin it something about satire and taken out of context, but the judge's expression was pure stone. Then came the text messages. Screenshots of her telling her sister how she'd printed the fake eviction letters at her office, and how she couldn't wait to watch everyone panic. You could feel the air shift in the courtroom. Karen, who'd strutted in on day one like she was there to win a beauty pageant, was suddenly small, shoulders hunched, eyes darting, like a cornered animal realizing the trapdoor had just slammed shut. By week 3, the criminal case and the civil lawsuit had merged into one giant snowball of disaster for her. The Homeowners Association countersued for damages and legal fees, citing fraud, harassment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. And this time, the evidence wasn't just videos, it was her own typed confessions. When the verdict came, it was brutal. The judge ruled in favor of the Homeowners Association on every single count. Karen was ordered to pay tens of thousands in damages, plus attorney fees. The criminal charges stuck. 2 forgery and fraud, both with hefty penalties. I'll never forget the sound she made when the judgment was read. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't even a cry. It was this low, defeated exhale, like all the wind had been knocked out of her. Walking out of that courthouse, the neighborhood felt lighter. People smiled at each other again. Kids played on driveways without parents nervously glancing at their ring feeds. And Karen, she disappeared. Her house went up for sale a month later, and she vanished from our lives like a bad dream finally over. But here's the real kicker: that smug lawsuit she filed to clear her name had done the exact opposite. If she just kept her head down after the arrest, maybe some people would have moved on. But no, she had to push it. And in pushing it, she'd handed us the rope we needed to pull every rotten truth into the light. Sometimes karma doesn't come quietly. Sometimes it walks right into the courtroom and signs your name at the bottom of its own judgment. And if you think this homeowners association war was wild, wait until you hear about the time another Karen tried to ban Christmas lights and wound up in a federal deposition. I'm telling that story next. So hit that subscribe button on my YouTube channel before you miss how that lawsuit exploded. They threw a party in my pool at my house without asking, without warning, and without even knowing I was watching the whole damn thing from the upstairs window. Yeah, that happened. And by the end of it, I didn't just kick the Karen sisters out, I got a court order that had their butts evicted. Let me back up a sec. It was a blistering Saturday in July, the kind of day when the sun fries your skin before you even make it to your mailbox. I had been out of town on a work retreat. I am a regional manager for an engineering firm. Nothing fancy, but it pays well and keeps me on the road. So when I pulled into my driveway that afternoon, I was just hoping for a cold beer, a quiet house, and maybe a few lazy laps in my backyard pool before calling it a night. Instead, I found 6 SUVs parked in front of my house. Music was thumping like a nightclub. Laughter echoed from the backyard. And when I opened my front door, God help, met here were wet footprints all over my hardwood floors and a bikini-clad stranger coming out of my bathroom like she owned the place. My jaw damn near hit the tile. "Hey, you must be Derek's friend," she said, brushing past me without a care in the world. Who the hell is Derek? I followed the noise to the back past the kitchen, which now smelled like someone spilled half a gallon of tequila on the counter, out to the patio. And that's when my brain short-circuited. There, floating in my pool, under my string lights, drinking from my personal whiskey stash, was the HOA president's daughters, the Karen sisters, Savannah and Madison, along with at least a dozen of their trust fund clones doing synchronized cannonballs and dumping sunscreen into the water like it was tanning oil at Coachella. "Excuse me?" I barked, louder than I meant to, but who wouldn't lose their mind? Savannah turned around, visibly annoyed, like I'd interrupted her Zen yoga retreat. "Oh, hey. We thought you were going to be gone another few days." My eye twitched. "You thought? You broke into my house, hosted a rager in my backyard, and you thought I wouldn't mind?" She rolled her eyes like I was being unreasonable. "Chill. We're on the HOA. The community has access to shared amenities. Isn't that what you said in the last meeting?" "No. No, it is not," I hissed. "This isn't a shared pool. This is my private property. That fence you climbed? That's the legal line. This ain't a damn Marriott." Then get this, Madison chimed in with, "Well, technically, the HOA bylaws grant communal rights to neighborhood green spaces and recreation zones, and your backyard meets the landscape coverage threshold." Oh hell no. This is where I should tell you. I'm not just some guy with a pool and a short fuse. I'm also the guy who designed the legal easement plans for half the lots in this subdivision. I know every inch of what counts as communal property and what doesn't. My pool? Not even close. But they didn't know that. Instead, Savannah called me hostile, said she was feeling unsafe, and had the audacity to dial 911 on speaker, hoping to get me arrested. In my own home. Couldn't believe it. I just stood there, soaked in chlorine mist, watching her give the dispatcher a sob story about being harassed by an angry homeowner. For a split second, I thought maybe I was losing it. Maybe this was just a dream and I'd wake up to the smell of leftover pizza and peace. But no. The dream turned into a nightmare real quick. When the officers arrived, yes, 2 patrol cars for a fake emergency. I calmly explained the situation, handed over my property deed, and even played security footage from my door cam. And when Savannah tried to argue some made-up HOA access clause, I handed the officers a flash drive. You see, while she was organizing unauthorized house parties, I'd been collecting evidence. They didn't know I'd already filed multiple complaints to the city zoning board. They didn't know I'd installed infrared motion cameras after the last mystery footprints incident. And they definitely didn't know that the only reason I'd left town for 3 days was because I was attending a private arbitration hearing about this exact kind of HOA overreach. Yeah. Plot twist. See, the HOA had been trying to slowly creep into private properties through vague reinterpretations of easement boundaries. It was their little trick to turn more areas into shared space without actually acquiring ownership. I found out when they sent a letter last month about possibly converting my lot into dual-use recreation due to underutilization. So, I sued them. That hearing, it ended with the judge siding with me. And not only that, the court issued an injunction prohibiting any member of the HOA from entering my property without my written permission. And that's when I smiled. Officers, I said, you may want to see this. I pulled out a copy of the court order, still warm from the courthouse copier. They're in direct violation. That means they're trespassing. The younger officer raised an eyebrow. And this was issued when? Yesterday, I said. Stamped by Judge Wilcox. The radio buzzed. The officers took one look at the order. Then at Savannah still dripping wet and clinging to her pineapple flotion, you could see it dawn on her. Oh crap, this is real. The next 10 minutes were pure gold. The Karen sisters were asked to vacate immediately. Their guests scrambled out of the pool like cockroaches in the light. Someone tried to take a bottle of my bourbon and got politely but firmly told, "Put that down." And then came the part that still makes me laugh. Madison, standing on my lawn wrapped in a beach towel, had the nerve to scream, "You'll regret this. We run this neighborhood." I leaned against the porch rail, cool as ever, and said, "Not anymore. You just got served." Literally. Because what they didn't know, Wasami attorney was already filing for emergency eviction from their mother's home. Why? Because the property was under dispute for improper registration under a fraudulent trust to bypass HOA conflict of interest laws. That's right. Turns out their mommy had illegally transferred property to her daughters under a Shell LLC registered Toget Tisan expired P.O. box in Nevada. So I reported it. By the end of the week, the court ruled in my favor. Fraud, conflict of interest, HOA violation, you name it. A marshal showed up 2 days later with a notice of eviction and removed the Karen sisters from their so-called inherited residence. No more surprise pool parties. No more fake HOA law lectures. And definitely no more margarita fountains erupting in my living room. When the dust settled, the neighborhood changed. A few other homeowners came forward with complaints about HOA overreach that had gone ignored. The President Savannah and Madison's mother resigned in disgrace. And I got elected to the new interim board. I rebuilt the HOA charter from the ground up. Simple rules. Transparent budgets. No weird gray areas or fake fines. And most importantly, every homeowner got full legal clarity on their property boundaries. In writing. The Karen sisters? Last I heard, they tried to throw another party in someone else's pool in another neighborhood. And got arrested for trespassing. Karma, folks. So if you're ever wondering if the quiet guy down the street with the blueprints and a calm smile is harmless, think again. Sometimes he's just waiting for the right moment to take your whole house of cards and knock it into the damn pool. What would you have done if it were your house? Would you have called the cops or the court? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like if karma hit just right. And don't forget to subscribe for more neighborhood justice served cold. I never thought a neighborhood dispute would end with someone being arrested, but then again, I'd never met a Karen like Linda Simmons. She didn't just cross the line, she demolished it with a smug little smile, and her chihuahua tucked under one arm like a weapon. All I did was park 10 feet from the curb and pop my trunk to help a neighbor. Then she came at me like I'd set fire to the HOA charter. "This is a violation," she shrieked, marching across the cul-de-sac in her crisp pastel tennis outfit, the dog yapping in sync with every step. I didn't even flinch. Not at first. Linda, it's a medical kit. I just got called to help Mrs. Dean. She slipped again. But Linda wasn't listening. She was already pulling out her phone, filming me like I was a felon. You're not licensed. You're not allowed. This is private property. And your little wannabe EMT act doesn't give you permission to park here. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice calm. I'm a Red Cross responder. Voluntary, yes, but still trained. And when someone's bleeding, I don't care, she snapped. You're not authorized by the HOA. Oh, for crying out loud. That's what this was about? Not the bleeding, elderly woman next door, just her precious parking rules? That's when I saw her move. Real fast, like some psycho squirrel. She darted around to the back of my car, shoved her purse between her knees, and slammed the trunk down on my open med case. Crack. The sound echoed down the street like a gunshot. Something inside me snapped right along with the plastic. Are you out of your mind? Linda straightened up slowly, brushing invisible lint off her blouse like she'd done something noble. Maybe now you'll learn to respect authority. You just destroyed an emergency defibrillator, I said, stepping closer, my voice low and shaking. That's over $1,200 worth of life-saving gear, you absolute lunatic. She raised her phone. Touch me and I'll call the police. I gave a bitter laugh. Please do. I want them here. A small crowd had gathered by then. Mrs. Dean's grandson, a few dog walkers, and old Mr. Bell from across the street, who never said much but always saw everything. Did you guys see that? I asked them, gesturing at the broken kit. She destroyed it on purpose. She smashed a medical tool during an active emergency. Linda turned to the group with a wide, fake smile tone. I was merely enforcing HOA protocol. We can't have unauthorized vehicles. No, don't you spin this. I snapped, pointing at the crushed AED casing. You sabotaged medical equipment. That's a crime, Linda. Her smugness flickered for the first time. Mr. Bell cleared his throat. I saw her do it. Heard the snap, too. That was no accident. One by one, neighbors started murmuring, yeah, they saw it too. She did slam it. Deliberately. Loud. Forceful. Mrs. Dean's grandson was already calling 911 for both an ambulance and the cops. Linda backed up, suddenly quiet, her face pale. This is ridiculous. I was just ensuring compliance. A siren wailed in the distance. Good, I thought, arms crossed over my chest. For once, the consequences were coming right on time. 30 minutes later, Linda was sitting on her perfectly trimmed lawn, handcuffed and furious, the HOA rulebook lying uselessly beside her like a failed shield. The officers hadn't been gentle. They took one look at the shattered case, the statements from 3 witnesses, and didn't even wait for the usual neighborhood politics. Tampering with medical devices, destruction of emergency property, obstruction during an active response. Did you even know what that thing was? One officer asked her, holding up the remains of my AED. That's for cardiac arrest. You smashed it because you didn't like where someone parked. Linda said nothing. She just stared at me with this venomous glare like I'd somehow betrayed her. I almost laughed. You messed with the wrong nerd, Linda. The whole neighborhood watched as she was taken away, her little yappy dog whimpering in confusion at the curb. But you know what? I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The twist came a week later. I got a notice from the HOA board they were fining me. What? Apparently, Linda had filed a complaint before her arrest, claiming I'd aggressively exposed medical gear in a public area and endangered children with the open trunk. I actually gasped out loud reading it. Aggressively exposed? What the hell does that even mean? I stormed into the emergency HOA meeting, photos, testimonies, and even a copy of the police report in hand. I wasn't going to take this lying down. The board president, a bored-looking man in his 60s named Greg, tried to calm me down. We're just following protocol, ma'am. Complaint was filed. We investigate, we fine. She's in jail, Greg, I shouted. This isn't a noise violation, we talking about felony sabotage. There was an uncomfortable silence. Then a soft cough. It was Mr. Bell again. From the back. "Greg," he said, voice steady. "You fine her for this, and I'll release the security cam footage from my porch. It shows everything. Want that online? HOA protects felon while fining volunteer EMT? I bet Channel 7 would eat it up." Greg's jaw clenched. "That won't be necessary." "Damn right it won't," I muttered. Fine revoked. But Linda's war wasn't over. From jail, she tried to send a letter to every board member claiming she was framed, that I had faked the kit's damage to get her in trouble. She even accused me of planning it, saying I was trying to oust her from HOA influence. What influence? The woman ran a Facebook group with 4 followers and yelled about garbage bins. She'd gone full unhinged. But here's the karma. Her letter violated her bail agreement. She wasn't supposed to contact anyone involved in the incident. So yeah, back to jail. Ding ding. Round 2 to me. I fixed my AED with donated parts and a GoFundMe that neighbors happily contributed to, especially after someone posted a TikTok clip of Linda being cuffed. It got 87,000 views. Turns out people love a good Karen downfall, especially when it's got sirens, broken gear, and a big fat slice of poetic justice. You want to guess the best part? I got asked to join the HOA board. I didn't want it at first. God, no. But the idea of keeping people like Linda off it, that was tempting. So I said yes. And the first thing I did? I passed a resolution. Emergency responders, licensed or voluntary, may act without HOA interference during medical incidents. Linda, she'll be lucky to see this place again without a parole officer. And if she ever does come back, well, I've upgraded to a steel toolkit. Within a month, the local paper picked up the story. HOA dispute ends in criminal charges after medical gear sabotaged. They interviewed Mrs. Dean's grandson, who told them point blank, "If that defibrillator hadn't been working, my grandma could have died." People were shocked that something so petty, parking near the curb Calvi, ended in a fatality. All because of one woman's obsession with control. And it wasn't just gossip anymore. Linda's arrest turned into a full-blown lawsuit. The city prosecutor filed charges of interference with emergency services, destruction of public-use medical equipment, and even reckless endangerment. She tried to plead it down, of course, but with all the video, photos, and witness statements, there wasn't much wiggle room. Her attorney looked more exhausted every time he showed up in court. The HOA board what was left of it to distance themselves. Several members resigned quietly, and I wasn't the only one they'd targeted before. Turns out, Linda had made years of complaints about unauthorized gardeners, suspicious package deliveries, and even kids chalking on the sidewalks. It was never about safety. It was always about power. But now she had none. The day the judgment was handed down, I stood outside the courthouse watching her walk out the side door, eyes down, shoulders slumped. No yappy dog, no clipboard, just a woman whose fake kingdom had finally crumbled. She avoided me, of course, but I didn't need eye contact to know she felt the cold sting of consequences. And maybe, just maybe, a little shame. Still, I wasn't angry anymore. I felt relieved, not because she suffered, but because people finally stood up and said, "This isn't okay. This isn't normal." And if you're reading this thinking, "Damn, that could have been my neighbor?" Yeah, could. So speak up. Document everything. Because sometimes the only way to stop a Karen is with a courtroom and a copy of the law. And one last thing. You can see the full security cam footage, police body cam clips, and my side of the story on my YouTube channel. Just search HOA Karen Lawsuit Saga and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next.